Imagine standing in one of the coldest places on Earth, surrounded by endless snow, freezing winds, and towering mountains. You are not alone. 8 of your closest friends stand beside you. You're all young, experienced, and confident. None of you knows that within just a few days, every single one of you will be dead. This is not a legend. It is not a horror movie. It is a real story that happened in the winter of 1959-9. Experienced university students from the Soviet Union set out on an expedition into the frozen Ural Mountains. It was supposed to be another successful adventure, but they never came home. Their leader was Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student and one of the Soviet Union's most experienced young mountaineers. Every member of the team trusted him completely. They had survived difficult expeditions before, and none of them believed this journey would be any different. For several days, everything went exactly as planned. The team crossed frozen rivers, climbed steep mountain slopes, and laughed together around the camp each night. They took photographs, wrote in their journals, and enjoyed the adventure. They had no idea they were getting closer to the place that would become one of the world's greatest mysteries.
As the sun slowly disappeared behind the frozen mountains, the hikers decided to stop for the night. They chose an open slope to set up their tent, surrounded by endless snow. It wasn't the safest place, but they believed it would save time the next morning. They cooked dinner, laughed together, wrote in their journals, and took a few final photographs. None of them knew these would become the last happy moments of their lives. As darkness covered the mountain, the temperature dropped far below freezing. Outside, powerful winds swept across the empty slopes, shaking the tent with every gust. Inside, the hikers tried to rest after days of climbing. They had no idea that this would be the last night they would ever spend together. Hours passed. The mountain was completely silent until something happened. We still don't know exactly what they heard or what they saw, but whatever frightened them was so terrifying that 9 experienced mountaineers made a decision that defied all logic. Instead of opening the entrance of the tent, they cut their way out from the inside. In complete darkness, during a freezing snowstorm, wearing little more than the clothes they had slept in, they left behind their boots, their heavy winter jackets, their food, their supplies, everything they would need to survive. And then they disappeared into the night.
Days passed, then weeks. The hikers were supposed to return home, but no one heard from them. At first, their families believed the expedition had simply been delayed by bad weather. Winter expeditions often took longer than expected, but as more time passed, worry quickly turned into fear. Friends and relatives demanded that the Soviet authorities begin a search. Finally, rescue teams were sent into the frozen Ural Mountains. Soldiers, experienced mountaineers, and local volunteers searched through endless fields of snow. Every day, they battled freezing temperatures, blizzards, and dangerous mountain conditions. Then, on February 26, 1959, one of the search teams noticed something unusual on the white mountainside. Half buried beneath fresh snow was the hiker's tent. At first glance, it looked abandoned, but as rescuers moved closer, they realized something was terribly wrong. The tent was still standing. Food was still inside. Warm winter boots remained neatly arranged. Heavy jackets, cameras, backpacks, personal belongings. Everything had been left behind. It looked as though the hikers had planned to return within minutes, but they never did. Then investigators noticed something even stranger. The tent wasn't damaged by the weather. It had been sliced open from the inside. That discovery changed the entire investigation. Why would 9 experienced mountaineers cut their own tent open instead of simply using the entrance? The answer has never been fully proven. The footprints led rescuers away from the tent, down the mountainside, toward the edge of a dark forest nearly 1.5 kilometers away. Surprisingly, the footprints did not suggest that the hikers had been running in panic. Instead, they appeared to be walking. Some prints showed bare feet, others showed only socks, and a few belonged to hikers wearing just a single boot. In temperatures below -30 degrees Celsius, every second outside meant the risk of death. Yet the hikers had continued walking into the darkness. Following the trail, rescuers finally reached a giant cedar tree. There, they made the first horrifying discovery. 2 bodies lay beneath the tree. They were almost completely undressed. A small fire had burned nearby. Only a few blackened branches and ashes remained. It looked as though the 2 hikers had desperately tried to stay warm. Investigators then looked upward. Several branches of the cedar tree had been broken high above the ground. Some experts believed one or both hikers had climbed the tree. Perhaps they were trying to see the tent. Or perhaps they were trying to escape something below. No one knows for certain. Then came another strange discovery. Between the cedar tree and the abandoned tent, rescuers found 3 more bodies. They were lying several hundred meters apart, all facing toward the tent. It looked as if they had been trying to return, but one by one, they collapsed in the snow. 5 hikers had now been found. 4 were still missing, and the biggest mystery was yet to come. Winter slowly came to an end, but 4 members of the expedition were still missing. Weeks turned into months. Snow continued covering the mountains, making the search almost impossible. Then, in early May, as the snow finally began to melt, search teams made another discovery. Deep inside a narrow ravine, beneath several meters of snow, they found the last 4 hikers. Their location raised even more questions. Unlike the first 5 victims, these 4 appeared to have reached a sheltered area. Nearby investigators found signs that they had tried to build a small shelter using tree branches and snow. It seemed they had fought desperately to survive. But what investigators discovered next shocked everyone. Several of the hikers had severe injuries. Some had major fractures to the chest. Others had serious skull injuries. Investigators reported that these injuries were extremely powerful, comparable to those seen in high-impact accidents. Yet there were very few external wounds on their bodies. It was a puzzling combination that fueled decades of speculation. One victim was also found without her tongue. Investigators did not reach a definitive conclusion about how that occurred. And over the years, many different theories have been suggested. Suddenly, newspapers around the world began asking the same question. What could have happened on that mountain? An avalanche? Secret military activity? Powerful winds? Something else entirely? Every new theory seemed to explain some details, but none explained everything. The mystery had only grown deeper. For more than 60 years, people searched for answers. Countless books were written. Thousands of investigators, scientists, and journalists studied every detail of the Dyatlov Pass incident. Over the years, dozens of theories appeared. Some believed it was a military experiment. Others believed powerful mountain winds created panic. Some pointed to unusual lights seen in the sky. And many believed a small slab avalanche forced the hikers to leave their tent. In recent years, modern scientific research has suggested that a small slab avalanche, combined with extreme weather, darkness, and freezing temperatures, is one of the most likely explanations. According to this theory, the hikers may have feared their campsite was no longer safe. They left the tent quickly, planning to return after the danger had passed. But in complete darkness, surrounded by hurricane-force winds, with temperatures below -30 degrees Celsius, finding the tent again may have become impossible. Some tried to build a fire. Others attempted to return. The last group searched for shelter in the ravine. One by one, nature defeated them. While this explanation answers many questions, it does not answer every single one. That is why, even today, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. 9 young people left home for an adventure and never returned. Their story still echoes through the silent mountains, waiting for the day someone finally uncovers the complete truth. What do you think happened on that mountain? Tell us your theory in the comments below.